Thank you for volunteering to support Virtual NSLI-Y with the application evaluation process. In this training, we will be providing key information about Virtual NSLI-Y in the upcoming application cycle. This video is intended to be viewed as a supplement to the Overseas NSLI-Y Evaluator training video. We recommend revisiting that training as a refresher before proceeding with this video. Please be sure to listen to this entire recording, even if you have evaluated for Virtual NSLI-Y before, as the evaluation process for this application cycle has changed. Over the next few minutes, we'll review the Virtual NSLI-Y program, a review of the NSLI-Y adjustment factors as they relate to Virtual NSLI-Y, the role of language motivation on acceptance to the program, other components for overall assessment, and a review of the online evaluation portal. Virtual NSLI-Y was introduced in 2019 and has the same goals as the overseas programs, but offers language learning and cultural exchange in a live, online format. It also differs from overseas programs in that classes are beginner only. The program is primarily intended for students who have not participated in a previous exchange and have not formally studied any of the offered NSLI-Y languages, though applicants who do not meet these criteria are still eligible. As we review the language study and travel sections of Virtual NSLI-Y applications, as well as the knowledge of language sections, take note of applicants who may have already had these experiences. We'll talk more about what this means for evaluation later in this video. While the overseas programs have a separate application process, about half of Virtual NSLI-Y participants end up applying to an overseas NSLI-Y program as well. Students can apply to both the virtual and overseas NSLI-Y programs as long as they complete their Virtual NSLI-Y program first. All Virtual NSLI-Y classes are beginner level. No prior language learning experience is required. When applying to participate in Virtual NSLI-Y, students select a first preference language and have the option to select a second preference language. The languages being offered in Fall 2025 are Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Korean, and Russian. Selected finalists are placed in classes according to student preferences and availability. Virtual NSLI-Y is structured into a 10-week beginner-level foreign language and cultural experience that takes place during the typical school year. Students attend 90-minute sessions twice a week, taught by experienced language teachers. There may also be up to 3 hours of assignments or homework per week. Cultural and language learning opportunities can include activities like cooking demonstrations, calligraphy practice, dance and song lessons, and virtual tours. The program also introduces participants to featured guests. These guests typically consist of experts on traditional arts and cuisine, NSLI-Y study abroad alumni, and professionals who use language and cultural skills in their careers. The program also offers optional community building activities outside of language classes. These student group meetings can include game nights, strategies for language learning success, information about studying abroad, and supplemental guest speakers. To be eligible for Virtual NSLI-Y, students must be a U.S. citizen, be a U.S.-based student enrolled in high school at the time of participation, be 15 to 18 years old, and be a novice in the language selected on the application. This means that students have had no formal instruction from school, camp, tutoring, or online programs, and are not enrolled in classes for their preferred Virtual NSLI-Y language during the program. In addition, students cannot be a current or past participant of any NSLI-Y or U.S. Department of State exchange program, and they must meet all requirements regarding family member employment. Very limited self-study of the language is acceptable, but students must still be beginners. They are instructed in the application to self-assess their level using ACTFL materials. Students must be able to access necessary supplies to participate, that is, reliable internet, headphones, a quiet space to participate from, and a tablet or computer. American councils will be able to provide financial support to students for these supplies if they meet financial need requirements. Any applicant who selects false to an eligibility question will be contacted independently to provide clarification on their answer. Some may have been marked in error by the student. In any case, we ask evaluators to note a yellow flag in this situation to mark the issue for further review during final selection. Here is a summary of the components of online evaluation for Virtual NSLI-Y. We recommend that you pause the video here to ensure all of the information on this slide is familiar to you. The Virtual NSLI-Y evaluation process is similar to the NSLI-Y study abroad evaluation process with some differences. One major difference is the lack of a semi-finalist and interview stage for Virtual NSLI-Y. This difference is one more reason why your careful evaluation of the student's written application is critical to the selection process. Also remember that students are able to provide unofficial transcripts. These could take the form of screenshots of an online grade portal or scans of physical report cards. They must still provide full records for their high school grades and, in the case of rising 9th graders, a list of the classes they are taking in their first term of high school, along with their middle school grades. Students submit these academic records themselves. If they have not redacted personal information, please disregard this as part of your evaluation. Virtual NSLI-Y also differs in its noting of prior language or critical language study. Refer to your notes from the language study and travel sections in particular to make this determination. When making your overall assessment, be sure to keep the application evaluating guidelines on hand. Now we'll discuss the adjustment factors. For Virtual NSLI-Y applications, we honed in on just 6 possible adjustment factors, considering what would be most relevant to an all-online program and what would be possible to see in the somewhat brief application. I'll now briefly summarize what each factor communicates in a Virtual NSLI-Y application, but please make sure to consult your factors reference sheet as well while evaluating. For communicativeness, the student must be willing to speak in class and ask for help from their teacher. For curiosity, the student should demonstrate a genuine interest in language and culture. For flexibility and adaptability, the student should be able to deal with challenges that may arise in the virtual program, willing to try new things in a new language. For open-mindedness, we look for students who should be open to new ideas and diverse classmates from across the U.S. For positive regard for others, we look for students who express warmth and empathy for others. For sense of self, we are looking for maturity and self-awareness. In particular, the ability for students to engage in self-directed learning is critical for this program. No other NSLI-Y factors will be used. You will read 2 written responses, an introduction to their language teachers and an essay, and you will be asked to identify factors in both. Score based on the framework you are familiar with, based on the number of factors you see and how well developed they are. Now let's discuss the confidential recommendation. Recommenders could be a recent teacher or any adult not related to the student who can speak to their academic preparedness for this program. If a student does not have a recommendation, they should still be evaluated. Based on the confidential recommender's written response, assessment of traits, and final recommendation selection, please rate the recommendation according to the following scale: 0, missing, or does not recommend the student; 1, average support with concern or hesitation; 2, solid or above average support; or 3, very strong or outstanding support. Here is an example of a recommendation that would be rated a 3. You can skim through some of the bolded text to see how the student's recommender, a Spanish teacher and Spanish club sponsor in this case, described the student's character, preparedness, ability to contribute to a diverse classroom, interest in language and cultural learning, and communication style. While this recommender did not suggest that the student had any skills to work on, it is important to note that suggesting that a student could work on a skill further should not necessarily negatively impact your rating. Like the overseas programs, it's important for Virtual NSLI-Y students to be motivated to study the language. We have a slightly different motivation levels rubric for Virtual NSLI-Y because this is a beginner program. Considering the entire application, but mainly the letter of introduction and essay response, we ask you to determine an overall score for motivation. Rating 0 means that the student expresses minimal or no interest in studying their Virtual NSLI-Y language and expresses no clear motivation or reasons for participating in the program. Rating 1 means that the student seems somewhat interested in participating, but does not make a clear case for why Virtual NSLI-Y will be a benefit to them. They might mention language and cultural learning, but vaguely. Rating 2 means that the student expresses specific or general goals for participating in Virtual NSLI-Y, expresses what they might gain from participating in the program, expresses interest and enthusiasm about learning a Virtual NSLI-Y language and about its related culture, and mentions possible future plans like career, academic, or within their home community, etc., that include use of the Virtual NSLI-Y language or languages. Here are some brief examples on language motivation. For the purposes of the training, we only included some portions of the application. Please take a moment to pause this video and read the quote under rating 0. In the first example, the student's motivation was rated as 0 as they are primarily interested in building their resume and participating to please their parents. The student does not demonstrate moderate or strong intrinsic language or cultural learning motivation. Now please take a moment to pause this video and read the quote under rating 1. In this second example, the student expresses moderate to strong general language and cultural curiosity and mentions pursuing other languages. This would not be rated as strong as it is missing specific mention of the Virtual NSLI-Y language they are applying for. Please take a moment to pause this video and read the quote under rating 2. This student's motivation is rated as strong because they discuss how it will enhance their study of linguistics generally, as well as how they will use the language in the future in their career as a surgeon. This example would be even stronger if the student gave more specific examples of the ways they will benefit from the study of the specific language they're applying for, and why they cannot pursue that study outside of this program. Now for some practice in evaluation of motivation. Please pause the video at each practice example to determine your rating. Then continue the video to reveal the answer. Read this example and determine the appropriate motivation score. Based upon this example, we would rate this student's motivation a 1. This student is obviously enthusiastic about studying Korean and references the fact that the chance to study this specific language is the main reason they are applying. This cannot be rated as strong because the student does not discuss future use of the language and spends equal amounts of time in their essay describing why they don't want to study Spanish. Read this second example and determine the appropriate motivation score. Based upon this example, we would rate the student's motivation a 2. This student discusses why they want to learn a new language in general and also specifies their long-term interest in pursuing Korean language and cultural learning, as well as travel to Korea to put that learning to use. Now let's discuss the questions relating to past exchange and critical language study experience. With special attention paid to the language study and knowledge of languages sections, please carefully respond to the following questions. 1. Has the student participated in a short or long-term exchange or study abroad program? 2. Has the student received formal instruction or tutoring in currently offered NSLI-Y languages, i.e. Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Indonesian, Korean, Persian, Russian, or Turkish? We recognize that the term critical language can apply to a broader number of world languages than the ones listed on this slide. However, for Virtual NSLI-Y application evaluation purposes, please only make note of languages listed here. Note that previous participation in a U.S. Department of State-sponsored exchange program, whether virtual or overseas, makes the applicant ineligible for Virtual NSLI-Y. We will screen applicants for eligibility on this point during secondary review. As this is a beginner-only program, formal study of the language being applied for also makes the applicant ineligible. If an applicant appears to be ineligible, please review the application anyway, but be sure to make a note of your observation in the evaluation portal and flag it under eligibility concerns. More information about flagging will be provided later in this video. Consider this example. Please feel free to pause the video to review the student's information. For the past exchange and critical language experience questions in your evaluation, you should mark yes for both questions 1 and 2 on this student's application. The student appears to have previously participated in a language exchange program and has formally studied Arabic, which is a NSLI-Y critical language. However, this student does remain eligible for Virtual NSLI-Y, as they have not participated in a Department of State-sponsored exchange, and they have not formally or extensively studied Russian, the language they are applying for. Remember that minimal self-study of the language does not make a student ineligible for Virtual NSLI-Y. If a student has not participated in an exchange, but they've had extensive travel or residency abroad in a country or countries that speak the language the student applied for, please make a note of this in your overall assessment. Let's look at one more example. Please pause the video to review this student's information. This student has not taken part in an exchange of any kind, and, though they have experience with foreign languages, they have not formally studied any of the NSLI-Y languages. Therefore, for both of the past exchange and critical language experience questions, you should mark No. Near the end of the evaluation, please mark any flags. Note that all flags should impact your negative factors and/or overall appraisal scores, with the exception of eligibility questions, AI tools possibly used, or other concerns. If you're certain the student does not meet the beginner level requirement for the language they're applying for, you should mark a yellow flag and include a comment on this in your overall appraisal comments. We have attempted to filter out students that don't meet eligibility requirements, but we need your help in the review as key information may be revealed in the essays or recommendation. Again, students who marked false to an eligibility statement at the beginning of their application, but who still remain in the evaluation queue, are known to us and have been contacted for clarification. You can make a note of the false eligibility answer and any supporting evidence of that answer in the eligibility section and/or in the overall appraisal summary. As a reminder, you all have been trained on avoiding common biases. Notify us if you have any potential conflicts of interest. Stay focused on the evaluation guidelines and be objective. Avoid assumptions and remain focused on what the student actually presents in their written application. Red flags include disturbing comments regarding behavior and violent comments. Yellow flags include immaturity, extreme shyness, arrogance, aggressiveness, bullying or mistreating others, no motivation for language or culture study, AI tools possibly used, more info on next slide, and any issue or comment that causes concern about the student's eligibility or preparedness for this program. We'd like to share a little more info on the topic of the Artificial Intelligence Tools Possibly Used yellow flag. The program's terms and conditions were updated in 2024 to specifically prohibit the use of artificial intelligence tools or software to complete program assignments. Similarly, application essays should be the applicant's own work. This slide lists some indicators that an essay might have been written using AI assistance. If you suspect that an essay is not entirely the applicant's own work, please mark an Artificial Intelligence Tools Possibly Used yellow flag. It is appropriate for vague or irrelevant essay information to impact your overall score, but please do not give an applicant a lower score solely based on suspicion of AI assistance. Your observations will be considered as part of final application review. Remember, this is only a suspicion and not a full verification. Please do not input students' essays into AI verification tools or websites. These sites are not always reliable, and you may be inadvertently giving these sites student information. Now we'll discuss the overall appraisal. Staff rely on your overall appraisal in finalizing selection decisions. After you have read the entire application, review all the sections, taking into account your own reactions and any yellow or red flags. Your overall appraisal comments should include clear, succinct, objective statements justifying your overall appraisal score based on the 0 to 5 scale noted on the slide. Your summary of the candidate's strengths and weaknesses is appreciated, and your impression of the candidate's academic motivation for Virtual NSLI-Y is crucial. Please consider the entire application package and articulate if you feel the sum is greater than the parts. Please also note in your evaluation if you think that a student's second language preference, whether specific or any, is worthy of consideration. Then, assign 0 to 5 points to the candidate based on your overall estimation. Virtual NSLI-Y evaluations will be conducted online using the ACE Forms platform. If you have questions about your login credentials, please reach out to Reading Room staff for assistance. Each application will be read by one evaluator, and each evaluator may hold up to 4 unfinished evaluations at a time. Evaluators must submit one or more of those evaluations before the system will allow you to request another. Save your work as you move from section to section of each evaluation, and reach out to reading room staff if you experience any technical issues. Finally, we would like to share important dates and information. The Fall 2025 evaluation form will open around June 6th. We aim for evaluation of all applications to be complete by no later than Thursday, July 17th. Evaluations will be made available based on a predetermined language priority order, which will be communicated to you by our reading room staff. This order is strategically designed and will help staff during final selection. Thank you so much for signing up to play this crucial role in Virtual NSLI-Y's evaluation process. Questions about the evaluation process may be referred to me, Angela McDougall, at virtualnsly@americancouncils.org. Any questions related to your online account or training expectations can be addressed to our reading room staff at volunteer@americancouncils.org. Thanks again for your role in making critical language learning accessible to U.S. high school students.